All right, let's talk about India's infrastructure. For years, the story has been all about growth, right? New highways just popping up everywhere, seemingly overnight. But a new report from Navama is suggesting that this incredible pace might be, well, hitting a pretty big speed bump. So today, we're going to dive into this report and figure out what's really going on.
And this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is the boom over? Has all that incredible momentum that's defined India's road development for, like, the last decade, has it finally just run out of gas? The data, well, it suggests we're at a really critical moment.
And boom, here's the number that should make you sit up and pay attention. Minus 36%. Let that sink in for a second. That's the year-over-year drop in new road projects being awarded by the National Highways Authority of India, the NHAI. A number like that? Wow. It's not just a small dip, it's a huge red flag, and we've got to look closer.
Okay, so what's really going on here? Why the sudden slowdown? You can think of it like this. India's infrastructure journey has been on a superhighway for years, and now it's just hit a massive pothole. Our job is to figure out what caused it.
And here's a really crucial point from the Nuvama report. This isn't some sudden, out-of-the-blue problem. The pace of new projects being handed out has been, well, let's just say lukewarm for 2 years straight now. That tells you this is a deeper trend, not just some temporary blip on the radar.
Now, to really get what's happening, you can't just look at one number. You got to understand the difference between two really important things: the number of projects being awarded and the amount of road that's actually being built.
Yeah, think of it like this. Awarding a project, that's the planning phase. It's like drawing up the blueprints, getting all the permits, and signing the contracts. Construction, on the other hand, is the actual physical work, guys out there laying the asphalt. And here's the key. These two things don't always move at the same speed, and looking at both of them tells a much more complete story.
So check out this graph. This right here, this shows the pipeline for future work. All the new projects getting the green light. And you can see it clear as day. After hitting a peak a few years back, that pipeline has just nosedived. It's almost run dry. This steep drop, it's the big warning sign. It tells us what construction companies are going to be dealing with in a year or two.
Okay, now let's compare that to this chart, which shows the amount of road actually getting built. See the difference? The drop here is way less dramatic. And this is what can be so misleading, right? On the surface, it looks like things are still humming along. Crews are still busy, for sure. But here's the catch. They're working on projects that were approved years ago. The real question is, what happens when they finish that work? And there's nothing new waiting for them in that pipeline.
So this slide just puts the hard numbers on what we've been talking about. So far this fiscal year, new project awards are down a whopping 36%. Meanwhile, actual construction is down just 8%. This gap is everything. It shows that the pipeline of new work is drying up 4 times faster than the current work is getting done. That's a huge mismatch.
Okay, so we've established what's happening. The numbers are pretty clear. But now we have to ask the big question, why? What on earth happened to make the government slam the brakes on what used to be such a massive priority?
All right, before we jump into the budget numbers, we need to be clear on one term, CAPEX. It stands for capital expenditure. All it means, really, is the money the government spends on big, physical stuff that's meant to last. Things like infrastructure and, of course, building roads.
And this table, honestly, this is the smoking gun right here. Just look at the total CapEx for the road sector. You compare the estimate for fiscal year 25 to what's budgeted for 26, and the change year over year is zero. Nothing. A completely flat budget. And look, in an economy that's supposed to be growing, a flat budget actually means you're falling behind.
The report also points a finger at a very specific policy decision. It says a big reason for the slowdown was the government's choice to hit pause on new project awards under its huge Bharat program. I mean, this was the flagship, a massive nationwide highway plan. So you take a flat budget and you combine it with a pause on your biggest program, yeah, that's a perfect storm.
Now, this slowdown isn't just a number on a spreadsheet, right? It has a massive, real-world impact on the companies that actually go out and build these roads. For them, this whole situation is like hitting a giant roadblock.
And this chart tells a really interesting story about who's actually getting the work that's left. Take a look at the market share for the big, publicly listed construction companies. It is absolutely tanked. Just a few years ago, they had a dominant 61% of all new NHIA awards. Today, it's down to just 24%.
So you see what's happening here? For these big developers, it's a total double whammy.
First, the total number of projects, the entire pie, is getting smaller, and on top of that, their slice of that shrinking pie is also getting dramatically smaller. I mean, that is a tough environment to do business in.
So with all of this happening, the slowdown, the flat budget, the incredible pressure on developers, you have to ask, what does the future hold? What does the road ahead actually look like for India's massive infrastructure dreams?
All right, let's look at the government's goals versus what's actually been happening. The target for new awards is set at an ambitious 4,500 kilometers. But last year, they only managed about half of that. That is a huge gap to close. Now, on the construction side, things look a bit different. The target is 5,000 kilometers, and they actually built more than that last year. So this just confirms it, right? The real problem, the bottleneck, isn't in the building. It's in the approving.
And that really leaves us with this final critical question. This isn't just about roads, you know? Infrastructure is like the circulatory system of an entire economy. For a country with India's ambitions, a slowdown like this could affect everything from supply chains to its standing on the world stage. The ambition is still there, for sure, but the pipeline of new projects is running dry. How India figures this out? Well, that's going to set the pace for its journey for years to come.